Hopefully this all works. So, as the Worshipful Master did mention, this is building off of a discussion that we've had, and it builds into the discussion that he brought up last month about mental health. And it's really titled, "What Has Unified Freemasonry Over the Years?" And as cynical as it may seem, because everybody hears it, one of the things that seems to be underlying everywhere on why we get united over the years on it is membership. As soon as membership starts to fall, somebody goes and does something different to be able to bring new people in. Freemasonry is thought to have derived from ancient stonemason guilds of the Middle Ages, whom were experiencing a large decline in their craftsmen in the guilds after large stone edifices such as cathedrals were starting to not be as popular. To combat that decline, they sought to bolster their ranks through opening membership to non-guild members, offering many of their membership benefits to others. These benefits included mutual aid, protection, fair wages, and connections in strange cities while traveling. Sounds somewhat similar still. From this, it was believed that in 1717, a few of these guild lodges, whom had moved far away from their operative roots over the centuries, established the Grand Lodge of England. In that 16th century, the world was moving out of the Renaissance and into an age of enlightenment, a period where the laws of modern science were being merged. Logic and philosophy were established by free thinkers outside of the Catholic doctrine that dominated the prior area. These new Masonic lodges offered a safe haven for debate, research that was not allowed by the Catholic Church. Further than that, they represented a place outside the aristocrats' structure of much of Europe, where democratic rule and equality was championed and allowed to thrive. That note at the end, for that example, at the end of the Age of Enlightenment, ended around the start of the end of the French Revolution, which ousted the old regime in France and established a new republic in its place, driving both huge political and social changes in the country. Now, while Freemasonry really can't claim to be the driving force of that huge political change, it would not be remiss to believe that they were not part of it. And it's not hard to take an example from even modern days, where you can look at many town councils and other artifacts of that growth of democracy and see that many of their trappings include collars like ours, include orders of business like ours. Much of the structure is the same, and it's not coincidental. In the place of the Age of Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution started. Major themes of rapid economic change through technological advances, but it came with a lot of social inequity and poverty, and a lack of workers' rights. Social societies such as Freemasonry banded together and stepped into many of those gaps, offering aid, similar to the ancient guilds before them, to their members, as well as having a haven to be able to organize and unionize and fight for rights. And this continued into the 20th century amid the Great Wars and the Great Depression. In North America, prior to Social Security and other government programs, Masonic associations were formed, quote, formed to provide a form of Masonic life insurance to provide the widows, orphans, heirs, assignees, or legalese of a deceased member as many dollars as there were members in good standing in the books of the corporation. Lodges further became a refuge for those returning from war, or during war as well, depending on where it was and what time frame, as a place of structure, as well as fellowship for those that felt like strangers in their own countries. In each of these examples, plus countless others throughout history, Freemasonry has been a part of the solutions that assailed our society. With each new purpose and direction, saw a swell in membership. Build it, and they will come. If someone's willing to sell something that's needed, demand comes along with it. The fraternity has, over years, been a haven for faiths and dogmas, counterculture philosophies, scientific theories, anti-capitalist movements, anti-autocratic movements, social safeties, fellowship, charity, education, all of these under our tenets of brotherly love, relief, and truth. In each situation and each age, society finally evolved that it was no longer needed for the fraternity to be one of the champions of these gaps. Democracy and power to the people is common around the globe. Governments have stepped in to provide many social programs and insurances. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, both widespread in the first world countries. As is the right to unionize, along with many other workers' rights. Even the need to congregate regularly for fellowship has evolved in the digital age, such that communication is immediate and readily available. Those pockets of the world where these freedoms don't exist, however, the fight continues. And in many instances, Freemasonry is at the forefront. But when the rights and liberties are won, then what becomes the point of the organizations that existed to enhance them? Many flag, lose their way, either fade away or find until a new cause emerges. I would propose, brethren, that this is where North American Freemasonry is. There's no need to combat the church and its limiting doctrines. The fights for individual rights and freedoms have currently been exhausted, and most is overwhelmingly accepted by modern society. There isn't even a real need to meet face-to-face with the proliferation of Zoom. The entirety of COVID, we were able to meet without actually gathering. North American Freemasons have lost their identity in the face of what is no longer without anything to fight against. There's no common enemy to rally against. And as such, without purpose, the return of falling membership haunts our organization and rings the alarm bells of senior officials' heads to recruit new faces or face extension. And with that, the argument's always been, we need to get back to what we're good at. Membership will return if we perform doing what was great and brought those people in 50 years ago. The failing in that, my brothers, is that the enemy that was needed to be overridden at that time is no longer a threat. And there's no real reason to rally behind those flags. We cannot offer anything of true value to current or future membership on that argument. We need to do things differently, while still remaining true to our character, our tenets as a fraternity, and our standards. We cannot abandon what brought us here, but we need to recognize that it isn't necessarily where we're going. In the last generational boom, Freemasonry surged because it was offered as a social gathering to people who were lost when they returned home from war. Practicing and perfecting the ritual allowed the stability and regularity of what otherwise could be chaotic lives that no longer adhered to the strict military rules and regimes that they were used to. Those precepts and habits bled over into new memberships. We saw the importance of the values of the older brothers, but didn't have the same connection to it. We've come adrift to that, believing that monthly meetings, fellowship, perfect ritual is necessary and is the core of Freemasonry. But we don't understand why. And so we see members that are not invested and leave because they're not part of a bigger identity. To this, brothers, I propose the solution is much the same as we've been talking about. We need a new issue to rally against, a new common enemy that our evolving society hasn't found how to cover that gap, to give us purpose, to give us meaning, to give us identity. And much like Worshipful Master mentioned last month, I believe that gap is covering mental wellness. Much like the Industrial Revolution, the digital revolution has advanced faster than society can adapt. The many bells and whistles that come along with instantaneous information and communication pitfalls have emerged. Burnouts from overworking, isolation from others in the community, and just an overwhelming amount of available information to sift through. When combined with a better science, to be able to identify higher rates of depression, mental illness, and suicide, it creates, signs of suicide, it creates a bigger awareness around it. Freemasonry can align ourselves and use our tenets of brotherly love, relief, and truth through its pillars of fellowship, charity, and education to both offer assistance to those in need and better equip our membership to combat and deal with mental wellness issues in both our lodges and in our community abroad. By knowing what our enemy is, it allows us to create our fraternal identity that not only directs our efforts, but energizes those who seek purpose and attracts like-minded individuals who are not currently members to bolster our efforts. We should be using our monthly gatherings as a safe place to express our feelings and concerns. We need to normalize what we're talking about. We need to direct our efforts of fellowship towards diversity and inclusion of our current as well as our future membership. Charity and relief should not only focus on those with physical illness, but those with mental as well. And education can take on two mantles. One, educating brothers in awareness and skills to address said issues. And two, for those debates of moral, ethical, spiritual issues and philosophy, we align our debates to include what any man experiences in these issues and debate what best to do in society to cover those gaps. In this way, Freemasonry adapts the newest age and tackles forward-looking problems. And another way to think of it, which mill would you rather be? One that still produces newspaper or one that's producing boxes for Amazon? Which do you think is going to survive the next stage? Thank you, brethren.